Martha Bueno, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for joining. I've been chasing you for like a year, man. I know I'm like nobody in the scene yet. I'm still trying to gain a following, but you were one of the first people I wanted to talk to because you and I share a lot of opinions. You're probably one of the people on Twitter that I see that I'm most often nodding my head to. I'm kind of like, yeah, yeah. So you see things very similar to me, and that's a rare because I'm kind of a weirdo. And so yeah, I wanted to talk to you a little bit. So for the folks that might not know who you are out there, why don't you give a quick introduction? Who's Martha Bueno?
All right, so there's a lot of people that don't know me, and that's I appreciate the intro. Um, yeah, so I am a mom of four, an entrepreneur, and a few years ago I started speaking out about politics. I got engaged with the Gary Johnson campaign on the Libertarian side, and then the Joe Jorgensen campaign in 2020 when we were going through some things. And then I ran my own campaign, and seeing what the next thing is here. But that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Cool, cool. Yeah. So you are in the political sphere, which is maybe one of the areas where you and I differ a little bit. So give me your thoughts on political action. Right? Like what value do you see in political action? What's your kind of like mental model around it? Because being an anarchist, that's been around the block a little bit. I look at political action mostly with derision, and so I'm kind of curious when I see people who are interested in engaging with the process, like what they're looking to gain, what utility, what value there is. So give me your overview.
Yeah, so I totally get the anarchist feel because I vacillate between the two, right? Like, no, I don't think anybody that is liberty oriented doesn't every now and then like touch that third rail of like anarchism. Because I think it's easy to recognize that any amount of coercion is wrong. And so, running for office to tell others how to live their lives, like, yeah, we see it as wrong. But then there's the like real life things, because as libertarians we love to think very much pie in the sky and this utopia. So what are real life consequences? Well, there are people in jail right now that shouldn't be in jail. And you could make a difference maybe for that person. You could be the one that could change things. So things in your own life, like you can be an anarchist, but you still got to pay your property taxes. You still got to pay your all these taxes that we pay. So there is a reason to engage with the system, and that is to attempt to improve it. So be anarchist in your free time. I'm definitely getting behind building a homestead. I'm definitely getting more into the like be self-sufficient, but you still have to engage with people around you. You can't move somewhere where there's literally no one. Like, what do we do?
Yeah, totally. And I don't think that that's really the anarchist view, right? I think the idea would be like let me steel man the position as much as I can, that we would convince enough people that initiating violence is wrong and we should have a stateless society. And I get it, right? Like there'd have to be a critical mass at some point, and I think the agorists maybe have a strategy to get us there. Who knows if that's going to be successful? But I don't think, and I think that what bothers me is the perception that anarchism is sort of antisocial, and it is a situation where like, oh, I'm just going to move off from the woods and be like Ted Kaczynski, right? Like I don't like that trope or that meme. I mean, if you want to do that, fine. Like if you want to go get some acreage and mind your own business and be self sufficient, that's great. It pains me because I am very pro-social, that more people don't want to live in a society that is sort of void of coercion and violence, where we want to just sort of respect each other's property rights and cooperate with each other and come up with free market, ways of solving important societal problems, things that government does today by force. Like nobody on my side of the fence is like, we don't need any sort of way to adjudicate disputes, and we don't need policing, right? We don't need fire protection for like these things are needed, right? And so I just it's just a different mindset, I think, and maybe I'm just a little bit too. Oh, go
Is
ahead.
it really a different mindset though? I mean, think about it. Everything we've ever accomplished has happened in incremental gains. Everything is incrementalism. So, if it's like, well, I'm not going to complain until everything is exactly how I want it and we have all the right toys and everything is perfect, then you're never going to come play and life is just going to pass you by. So, is it really that it has to be one way or the other? And I think that the more we've spoken out, the more we've convinced people. I hear a lot of people these days being like, that libertarian idea or that idea of less force is becoming more popular. So yeah, I don't think it has to be either or. And again, that's why I say sometimes I vacillate and I'm like, anarchist. But then I'm reminded what one person can do and what we can achieve towards freedom. One of the, I guess when I introduced myself, one of the main things I left off was the work we had done for Ross Ulbricht. And I joined that cause about 3 years before. And it was all with Lynn, his mother, coming to stay with me. So for those that don't know, Ross Ulbricht was convicted 240 years, sentenced to 240 years in a cage, jail, for building essentially a free market website where people could buy and exchange literally anything with Bitcoin way back in the early Bitcoin days. And so 240 years, it's a cruel and unusual sentence by every mean. It just didn't make any sense. And I met his mother, and that was the catalyst that changed my life, because here's this woman fighting for the things that we all believe in, and she needed help. And how can you be a libertarian and see this and not, you know, join? So I did in every way, shape, form. And we got Ross free. Ross now is a free man. So when people are like, well, why would you engage with the system? Because you can do that one thing that might mean the world for that one person. It's the difference between Ross spending every single day of his life until he dies in prison and now being a free man. So I love and respect a lot of anarchists, but I do, think that it's easier to just be like, you know what? Until it's perfect, I'm not going to do anything. And if we all just put our little bit of like that grain forward, we can actually build something. We can actually do something. So however it is that you want to do it, you want to go off grid and build your own family and, be self-sufficient, and you've got these really awesome kids that can do all sorts of things. Awesome. You want to go work and, try and change the system. That's great too. Like, I feel like we can't just spend our time criticizing each other too.
Yeah, that's a real problem. And to back up slightly, like I think you're 100% right. There's not a single way to do this. And I think this is where a lot of libertarians, anarchists, whatever, liberty-minded folks get caught up, as you well aware, fucking fighting with each other constantly over stupid bullshit, and demanding that there is a one way to
One
achieve,
size fits all for
it's
all.
it's so ironic. It is absolutely it's pathetically ironic, and it really rubs me the wrong way. And so I one of those people that, although I am an anarchist, like philosophical anarchist, like initiation of force should be off the table. I'm also a realist. I understand what world we live in. America doesn't like freedom, and that is a hard pill to swallow, but it's a fact. Hopefully, it becomes more attractive.
I think it's the majority voice, maybe, but that's only because a lot of Americans haven't heard the alternative. And so when you tell Americans, or when they, you're able to be like, hey, look at 2020. Did you enjoy that? Most Americans are like, no. Don't you want all these freedoms that were promised to you? Yes. I think that we need to stop with that narrative, because where did we get that from? We got that from, these mega TV stations that have been lying to us from the get-go. And they're like, oh, Americans don't want. No, no, no. Most Americans, when you go out into the real world, really believe in this. I mean, think about like the traditional like redneck American. Like, he is proud to be an American, freedom, all. Who doesn't like that? A very
Yeah, but
small
Martha,
minority.
that's a fucking slogan though, right? Like this is I guess one of the problems I have is that people say freedom. They want to put a fucking eagle with a sleeveless t-shirt and hold a can of Bud Light and go, yeah, like that's a meme. It's a fucking meme. But when you ask people about issues, and this is where I get really frustrated, because I talk to people that claim to be liberty minded, and when you actually press them on specifics, they're not really so liberty minded. Like, hey, do you want to get rid of Social Security? No, hell no.
Hey,
I
and
mean,
those are conversations to be had. I mean, again, like, I think most people don't understand the topics, and quite honestly, they're not the funnest topics. When you talk to somebody about Social Security, it's not that fun. I get it.
it's not, and it's not just Social Security. I think this is an endemic of responsibility, right? Because liberty on one side of the coin means responsibility on the other. And a lot of people don't want to take personal responsibility. I think that is what is attractive about statism, and about saying to, because also think about it this way, Martha, like what would you rather do if you're somebody, an average person? Do you want to like, hey, my problems are mostly my fault, or it's my congressman's fault? Fuck the government. You look at the approval polls; it's like 10% approval polls for Congress. Like we don't support any these people that we all vote for. People that vote. It's so easy to point at these people and say they're the cause of my problems, as opposed to look in the mirror. And so I think they ultimately it's like a domination fetish or something. People are
Absolutely.
like,
And
I
look at
want to
where we
be.
are politically right now. People who voted for Donald Trump are like, yay, tariffs. Absolutely.
Yes,
And so
yes,
now the pendulum is going to swing. This is something that like Gloria Alvarez has been talking about for like forever. Most Americans don't know who she is. She's very popular in Latin America. She's like the superstar libertarian female from Latin America. And she says that every time you get a populist, and now Donald Trump was a right populist, and it's going to be a disaster. Things are going to go wrong, and people are going to be like, never again. And they're going to swing so
yes,
far to the left. And so we're caught in this, this back and forth and back and forth. And each time has to swing further to the left. The new guy will be further to the left than Biden was. And the guy that follows him, they'll be further to the right than Trump is. And it's just, as libertarians, as liberty people, we really got to stop the infighting, because people get tired of that. And we should be there to welcome them with it. Yeah, we're the normal people. Welcome, and let's have actual conversations. Let's not go this crazy on each other. And we have that in the Libertarian Party or in the liberty space, and it's a little annoying. And yeah, we can have conversations and educate people. Again, you're not born with these knowledge, like knowing all of these subjects. And sometimes it's, lately I've been having these conversations and I'm like, maybe I've been wrong this whole time. Maybe we've been wrong on a lot of things. A great question for you is, what's better, a private prison or a government prison?
well, it doesn't necessarily have to. It feels like a false choice fallacy, right? Because who says
Those are
that
our, those are our options currently.
well, not necessarily. I mean, to some degree, yes. um but I mean, okay, let me back up a little bit. When people look at, and this is what bothers me constantly about forward-looking problem solving. You look at somebody like Bob Murphy, who wrote Chaos Theory. You look like David Friedman. Anyone who does any sort of, hypothesizing about what a stateless society would look like and the functions would look like, invariably gets put into a cookie-cutter paradigm that says, okay, how are you going to replicate this statist solution with the free market, right? And I don't like that. I'm not saying prisons wouldn't be part of the solution, but I would suspect anything that is free market based cares about costs, right? Like you really deeply care about the money that you're actually spending to provide a service, and so you would be minimizing something like prisons, where in the statist paradigm you have, or it's really is a corporatist paradigm, because you have the state who says we're going to incarcerate people for whatever bullshit crimes we make up. I don't like the plant you have in your backyard. Go
Yeah.
to jail. And at the same time, it enriches the people that run that prison industrial
But
complex, right? And
we're talking about a paradigm that doesn't exist, though, because we're not going to go into stateless systems. Things that I'm saying that I've been wrong about
got it.
are, for example, we do live in this system, and which one is better? So far, what I've seen from the private prison system is that they're all about making money. Yeah, saving costs, but also making money, and every bed needs to be filled because they make money. And so the more I think about, this issue that, as again, I'll say libertarians or liberty leaning people, is we're always like, well, we should have private everything, and we should, and I've been kind of, not that I have the answers, but I've been really giving this stuff a lot of thought. And it's like, well, I think we may be wrong sometimes, guys. And maybe, I hate to say it, but maybe the government is the place to run these things, where there is no financial incentive for these prisons. I mean, I don't know. Again, it is very weird being in this place right now, because we're not getting any closer to freedom. So we really need to realize that we're in the system, and how do we make it freer for everybody involved?
Do you think we can? Like, this is a question. And by the way, kudos for thinking about it that way. Few people are intellectually honest enough to examine their beliefs and say, like, look, should I think about this a different way? Most people are like, get on a team, whatever the libertarians say, I'm just going to accept that and go with it, right? Like, there's few people that think about things that way and challenge their assumptions. So kudos for that. God, where was I going with that? You were talking about prisons. I have ADD, so I completely chase a
Same.
rabbit hole.
Same here. Hold on, I
What?
left the water over here.
No worries.
Sorry about that.
I started a rant and I abandoned it halfway through, and I can't remember what the hell we were talking about except for around. Oh, it was a
Rising
libertarian.
private prisons and libertarians.
Well, it was about challenging your assumptions, and I'm glad that you're doing that because I do it frequently, and I think that all of us should do it more often. But I guess the question was originally, do you think that we can actually move the needle to become more free uh, in a government paradigm, right? Because you talk about
Right.
incrementalism, and you would think that the approach would be roll back the government, right? Let's say it's not even wholesale; it's in pieces of the government. We're gonna roll back here and there, and we're gonna change things towards a more libertarian stance. We never see that though. It never goes backwards. Matter of fact, freeing Ross is like the most libertarian thing that's ever been done, and it was affecting one person, and it came at the cost of what we're now $9 trillion lost in the stock market in the last
Would
couple of
anything have
days.
changed if we would have hired Kamala instead of Trump? Because those are realistically our only two options, which is another thing that, I, as somebody who worked very closely on the Joe Jorgensen campaign, I did Hispanic outreach for her. My friend Zach Foster out in California and we basically translated all of Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen's materials into Spanish. We put it out to the world. I went on interviews in Spanish, giving Joe Jorgensen's points, and we grew with $0. We were unpaid volunteers. We grew Hispanic outreach over Gary Johnson 5%. Now, Gary Johnson spoke Spanish. So we did, I think, a phenomenal job. And where am I going with this? Well, here's the thing. With all of that, Joe Jorgensen didn't scratch a 3%.
Yeah, libertarians have never won anything ever.
But it's not because libertarians suck. And this is where we keep saying this thing. The system is rigged. Go play Monopoly
100%.
against the bank and try and win when the bank has every rule in its favor. So it's like, yeah, again, we come back to this thing. I'm not going to engage with the system, but somehow we're going to have to win the system. Either we have somebody who's such a great orator that they can go out there and explain these ideas to the masses and get them really interested in our stuff, or we're going to have to engage with the system and incrementally make more freedom. And so the Ross thing, yeah, it only affected one person. It's only Ross's freedom, but it told everybody who saw this story what one person can achieve. And this is the power of one. Lynn Ulbricht started a movement and never stopped. When most people are ready to retire, when most people are like, well, this is it, 65 about to hit, I'm just going to sit at home and, eat bonbons and watch TV. I don't know what you do when you retire. I don't plan on retiring anytime soon. But she found herself in a position where her son was going to go to jail for the rest of his life. And there was no way to get out of it. All the way up to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court wouldn't listen to it. There was nothing that could get her son out of jail but a presidential pardon. Where do you start? You wake up one day and your son's in prison and you can't get him out. And where do you even start? Where do you begin? What's the first step? And this woman did that. She built a movement amongst libertarians, amongst Bitcoiners. She kept his memory alive. She went to everybody that would listen to her. Conferences around the world, almost lost her life, doing this. And so if she could do that at 64 and succeed at 75, but what can't we do? What can't we do as a movement? Like we've won. Now let's go. We beat the United States government. The United States government gave our guy. He was a Ron Paul kid. He was also part of Students for Liberty. I think their very first class. He's one of us. We beat the United States government. Now what?
Yeah, and by the way, kudos for your work on that, and kudos to Lynn and everyone who helped with that. I've got a buddy, Roger Ver, is facing very similar
Yes,
situation,
absolutely.
so it hits really close to home for me.
And Roger Ver is somebody else that we need to absolutely work for his freedom. Roger has a great sister and advocate, and I think that this is the way we do it. If you're blessed with a family member that can help, wonderful. But if not, we need to be the voices to carry those people through to the finish line. We need to keep doing what we did for Ross Ulbricht. We need to do that, not just for libertarians, but for people all across this country, because in a jail very near to everybody, there is somebody who is in there that should not be in there. And your voice could make a difference. And if that's not your cause, great, pick one that works for you. Because honestly, there's so many causes and there's not enough of us to go around.
Boy, 100% agree with that. And so, question would be, how do we change this? Because I've been around a long time, and you mentioned Ron Paul, like he was the last person who was both the great orator, right, as well as taking part in the system. Like he ran for president on the Republican ticket because he knew he tried to do the Libertarian Party thing. He found out that was a dead end road. So cool, we have a two-party duopoly. I'm going to pick one of them and try to get the nomination for that. Got as far as he could. I have a hard time believing someone is going to exceed Ron Paul's oratory capabilities and ability to connect with people on the issues.
There will be somebody. There will be
I
somebody. We can, all of those things are learned or acquired. If you've got somebody, how many great people do we not have in this party that are just starting to have kids? Who knows? Maybe one of their kids is our next great orator. Maybe it comes before then. Maybe we have a whole bunch of great orators. I mean, look at like people like Dave Smith. He's fantastic. He goes on Joe Rogan and he talks about the war and about all the horrible things happening. That's fantastic. And then you have people like Matt and Terry Kibbe, and they talk about social issues. I just saw Sarah Hickton come up, who works with the Kibbies, come up on my feed and talk about transgender issues with Dr. Phil. I mean, how much more mainstream can we get? And then you have people, so she's fantastic on those issues. And then you have, just people on every issue. You have people like Corey DeAngelis talking about ending, the Department of Education and how school choice is working. Heroes all across the board. We don't need one. Ron Paul was the ignition that got us all here to the table. I want to tell people to just go out and be your own Ron Paul. Yeah, I'm not as great as Ron Paul. I never claimed to be. But if I can move that little bit of like sand just a little bit forward, it's just, that's the thing. It doesn't have to be a great big thing. It's how do you progress in anything? You just every day, if you complete one task every day for freedom, where will you be 365 days from now? So just like, we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to like all be Ron Paul or, all be, I don't know, whoever, anybody that you look up to. For me, it's Lynn Ulbricht. We all can't be Lynn Ulbricht, but you know what? She had so many people along the way that like helped her out, whether it was like people who bought her a coffee, let her stay at her place, bought her a meal, told her about somebody that she should speak to like get to like all of these little things contributed. And that's, I think, the message that we're missing. I mean, I know I'm like, I'm beating a dead horse, but I really do think that like, that is what we need moving forward. It's kind of obvious from this vantage point, we're never going to get to anything if we're not like helping each other. And you see people like running for office and they're like, oh, you'll never win. So why are you doing it? Like, hey, pitch in.
Yeah, yeah, and I try not to be pessimistic. I'm really not. I'm an optimistic person for the future. I think one of the things that's dismaying to me is the fact that number one, like the libertarians all fighting with each other, like that sucks, right? Like we should all be agreeing as a whole that we will stab each other in the neck only when we're at that, whatever that line of minarchist or whatever that sort of, we've gone so far to the other way that our disagreements actually matter. Like that should be a shared tenet we have, and so that's annoying, and not only because it's not helping us move the needle, but the fact that it's setting a shit example. Right. Ron Paul used to always talk about one of the best ways to convince people is by setting a good example. And we're not setting a good example. And so that's annoying to me. The second piece of it
Yeah, but the only thing
is,
we can do is change ourselves. You can't
oh,
change other people. So I used to engage with that. I used
mhm.
to have disagreements with people. And sometimes, yeah, it's social media. You still do. But on the general basis, especially libertarians that I agree with most of the time, I'm not going to spend my time calling them out. And you know what? Hey, you do liberty your way, I'll do liberty my way. Is it as popular? Does it get you engagement? No, but also like we got to stop this. And the only way is to just stop ourselves. You can't get somebody else to do it. Be the change and all of that.
Yeah, no. It sounds trite, but it's real, and I think that everyone should adopt that, because fighting with people online, like you said, might use some Elon bucks or whatever. That's bullshit. That is, if you actually care about moving the needle forward and advancing liberty, like stop that shit. That's not
Yeah,
good.
it's like it's that thing. You need the engagement so that more people see your stuff. Like it's not necessarily the money, but you do need the engagement, and engagement pays. So it's you're stuck in this thing. But yeah, it's just, we got to start being real and stop, stop following people. If that's like the famous person who's like put egging that stuff on, just stop following them. Just stop.
Good advice there. The other piece I want to follow up on is the sort of state. You mentioned sort of like this pendulum swing between right and left, but I don't see Trump as being right, MAGA being right. I think they're hard left. They're authoritarian leftists at heart. So we have really like this left and lefter.
Yeah.
And so we're sort of vacillating wildly. It's all authoritarian, and it's basically just different variants of leftism. And so that annoys me. Especially when we do have kind of a Ron Paul type of guy already, Thomas Massie. He's in Congress. He's fucking awesome. I'm an anarchist. And I'm like, I would come out and vote for Thomas Massie
We should almost
tomorrow.
district. Yeah.
Yeah, for real. And that's funny because I'm in Tennessee and he's in Kentucky, and we're all sworn enemies of each other. And I would crawl
Sworn
over.
enemies of who? Oh my God! See,
It's a joke. It's a joke, Martha. It's funny because I'm not even from Tennessee, but there's this whole, the states have rivalries. Like Tennessee and Kentucky were like, right next to each other, and everyone hates each other. But I would crawl across broken glass up I-65 to go vote for Thomas Massie. He's amazing. And this group that is supposed to be libertarian, at least libertarian adjacent. You've got Vivek and like Elon, if you can call him libertarian, right? They're part of Trump's circle, or at least part of that influence around the campaign. And what we're seeing is them attacking Thomas Massie, right? Like these folks, and it's not just the political class, but you look at the influencers and the people that are part of that MAGA movement. They're like in unison. Fuck Thomas Massie, let's primary him.
That's exactly my point, though. And that's the thing. So, okay, the dirty little secret about influencers is that it's not organic. It's not organic. When you see people that have 1 million followers, that probably wasn't organic. And, the one that comes to mind is DC Drano. He is part of a group that pays him for posts. And so he makes money to promote certain issues, and they promote him in the algorithm. So, come on. If you're following somebody that has always the wrong takes, and you love Thomas Massie, but you see people attacking Thomas Massie when you know he's right, simply unfollow. Like, the more we always talk about like the free market and voting with your dollars and your feet and whatnot. Well, vote with your follows. If somebody is generally the wrong takes, stop it. What are we doing? And the thing is, those people are popular. So everyone's like, ooh, I'm going to follow the popular guy. That's what you get. You get this type of high school behavior. And you see it in MAGA, which is the other point that you touched on, which I'd love to get to. Yes, you are absolutely correct. It is not left or right. It is authoritarian to freedom. So it doesn't matter, because you could be as far left as you want in a completely free society, and people just don't have to engage with you. It doesn't really affect my life. But in an authoritarian sense, the more authoritarian it is, if you're right or left, now I gotta, now I have to be part of that system, or whatever system you use to dominate me. So yes, I agree. All of these people are authoritarian, and we're moving away from freedom. And you see all of the influencers following along and being like, oh, well, we didn't really mean tariffs in exchange for, taxes. We just meant both. And it's cute because Trump is playing 5D chess and he knows what he's doing. So, you know what? If that's what you want to listen to on a day in, day out basis, have at it. I'm kind of over it.
Yeah, it's funny. I tweeted earlier today. I thought it was pretty funny that, but also true. It's a very sad state of affairs that if Trump, one person, had changed his views on tariffs, then 90% of the country would change their views on tariffs.
Yeah. I mean, he is like the most popular human being on earth.
Well, right. What I mean though is that he's got his views on tariffs, and so the people who are on the Democrat team are automatically opposite of what his position is, and then the Republicans are going to follow him no matter what position he takes. So literally, one person would literally flip the opinion about tariffs of 300 plus million people overnight, which is a pretty sad state of affairs. So people are not thinking on their own. This tariff issue is like case in point.
But look at the Tesla issue. Back when Elon was the leftist god, everybody was like, buy a Tesla. He's going to save the world with this green energy. And today he's part of the Trump team, and everybody's like, Elon is the devil. And they're literally trying to burn Teslas. I mean, so I guess the green thing went out the window, huh? I mean, it's ridiculous. And that's the thing. If you can't think for yourself, That's the problem. So stop looking to what other people are doing and start thinking for yourself, and then bring other people to think with you, because we're never going to get out of this if you just follow along. Well, and people can be fallible. Like, I love Thomas Massey. Massey is the goat. But if he does something that I don't agree with, I would probably send him a personal message first, because no need to antagonize our own. But I would send him a message and be like, hey, did you mean to say that? Because I believe this. Or maybe have a public discussion with, hey, I just don't agree. I don't think this is the right thing. But we don't need to tear each other down. And we also need to start calling each other out in a polite way. Challenge those beliefs,
Yeah, wow. Polite discourse seems to have gone out of fashion with the advent of social media. It's really great, and I think there's so few people that are actually having polite conversations the way you and I would, face to face. It seems like it's a completely different paradigm. People just don't talk to each other in real life the way they do online.
Right, that's true. And it's pretty sad. I was recently on a train. I went to DC with Lynn for both of our collective birthdays, and we were on a train, and most people were on their devices. She and I were talking, and people were kind of annoyed with us because we were making noise. Like, we can't put, headphones in and just listen to each other that way. We got to actually speak. And I was just I guess admiring is the wrong word, just looking at, observing how many people were on their devices, sitting next to each other, not engaging in a conversation. So you're right. Are most people having political conversations? No. Um, how do you fix that? I don't know.
I don't know either. That's a great question. The devices are pretty damn addictive and seem to have taken over most people's lives from sun up to sundown. Some people are starting to, go retro and start to, either limit their device usage or use a device that's really not attractive, going grayscale. I don't know what the answer is, but it seems like it's just a dopamine machine that has everybody addicted. And it's quite sad. It's very antisocial.
It is. The kids walking around on their devices, and it's like, what are you doing?
So I want to talk about some other issues that are important to you that are also important to me. Let's talk about spanking and circumcision.
Oh, spanking children or spanking adults? I feel like those are
Your
completely
choice.
different.
I asked the question how I asked it.
Oh boy. So, circumcision. I love this subject because it's one of those things that I think most people haven't thought about. So do we agree on this issue or not? How are we on this one?
I am very much anti.
Oh,
I don't like the idea of mutilating children's genitals. I think that is abhorrent.
yeah. I mean, yes. Thank you, because it's so rare. Oh my gosh. Especially amongst libertarians, believe it or not. I
Mm,
thought that for most libertarians, it was just so blatantly obvious, like
nope.
people that I admire within the liberty sphere. I'm like, oh, you guys are having babies? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, I guess, your child's going to be super lucky because never be circumcised. Like, no, we're doing that. I'm like, excuse me? I didn't quite catch, like, how can you believe in body autonomy and then rob your child of body autonomy? And I think it's mostly because people don't think these things through, or because there's a lot of trauma associated with circumcision. If you were circumcised, unfortunately, in order to accept that it probably wasn't the best thing, you have to then believe that it wasn't the best thing. And that's a painful realization. So I think there's a lot of trauma around this issue. And I wish we, had this discussion more openly. And I don't know how to solve this one either. Turns out that these things are very hard to solve. Um, I think it should just be more with women because we haven't been mutilated, and so we don't have that trauma. And so I think that the answer is to go to mothers who are pregnant and give this information to them. I'd love to you know get to more women and have this conversation, because I think that it's super important. And women, we're the ones who go through the 9 months. We birth this child, we hold this baby in our arms, and then we say, oh yeah, go ahead, just bring them back when you're done cutting them up. So we should have this conversation. Men deserve body autonomy the same way women do, and we can recognize that it's wrong to circumcise women. Why can't we recognize the same out of boys? Why is it okay to mutilate little boys? And I don't get it.
And to make it worse, don't mean to throw gasoline on this dumpster fire, but these same people that are doing this are jumping up and down about trans issues, like they're transing the kids, they're mutilating these children's bodies. How dare they? How dare they? And it's like, this is a really small minority of people that you're
Yep.
screaming about. You don't strike me as credible in this area when you're completely accepting the ubiquity of male circumcision in society. You don't say a damn word about it. And you support it, actually. You do it to your own children voluntarily. And you claim this sort of feigned care about some of these other kids. And it's so disingenuous to me.
But I think that's unfortunately a large of part of politics, because we're not. So that's one of the things that I absolutely loved when I first found libertarians. I was like, oh my god, people who have these philosophical discussions. Because when you don't have it based in some type of morality or some type of principle, then it's very easy to be wishy-washy. You don't know where you stand. But if you go back to the first principle, then it's very easy and it's a very simple decision, right? So the first principle is your body belongs to you. Nobody has a right to make a decision for you regarding your body. Children is a very complicated issue because parents are entrusted with the body autonomy of their children, and yes, they have to make decisions for their children, but a permanent decision should not be made by a parent when the child is too young to make that decision for themselves. So, same thing with whether it is giving your child hormones or transing them. That's a permanent decision. Allow your child at least until 18 so that they are no longer a child and can make that decision for themselves. Um, and then, if it's circumcising your child, hey, give them until 18. If it's a religious thing for you guys and you want your child to be religious, well, at 18, let that kid decide, I'm going to go through with this surgery because I believe that this is the right thing. Why are you doing it as a baby? Oh, because it's more painful? Yeah, but you don't have to actually do it. Imagine that. And you can spare your kid the pain because maybe that religion isn't for him. Or maybe they decide to join a part or movement of that religion that accepts them as they are. Or maybe things change. But I mean, making these decisions for our kids is wrong. So instead of going, well, you can give your kids hormones, but don't circumcise, or circumcise, but don't give your kids this, let's go back to the first principle. And that is, your body belongs to you. Your child's body belongs to your child. Don't make any permanent changes on their behalf. Pretty simple stuff.
Yeah, you touched on something I think is important. I think let's as a good transition or segue into the spanking question, which is I think both are driven by religion. I think a lot. This is where I see the disconnect in libertarians when I have discussions with them on both these issues. It just almost the gears start to slip because they realize they're exhibiting cognitive dissonance, and what they're really doing is, like you mentioned, moving away from first principles. This concept of I own myself, self ownership, which is core to libertarianism. And they've sort of, well, I'm bowing to a higher power, therefore I have to hit my kid or I have to circumcise my kid.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the spanking issue, exactly that. Like, for a lot of people, how you grew up, you just repeat these patterns without really thinking about it. So, as a mother myself, early in when I first had my children, a little swat on the butt or whatever. And then unfortunately, much later, because I was part of that pattern. Even though I considered myself a libertarian and had these beliefs, it hadn't clicked in my mind. And at one point, I just was like, "Oh my gosh, this is actually terrible." And you shouldn't swat your kid on the butt. You shouldn't touch their body in any way they don't want you to. I mean, it's kind of obvious, if and yeah, you can reason with your kid. You don't have to use force, and of course, a little baby, they don't understand things, so you might have to redirect them or pick them up and put them somewhere else for their safety, but you definitely don't need to hit them. And I think that's just, a lot of us grew up with that, and so it's kind of ingrained, and it really takes thinking about it. And it's, again, it's kind of, it brings up these feelings in a lot of people of inadequacies, or just whatever, or feelings of their past. And so it's a difficult subject, but I think having these conversations are super important, because you hear enough of them, eventually it'll trigger something to start thinking about it, and
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah.
raising a better next generation.
Yeah, 100%. And you touched on something with the circumcision, which I think also translates here, which is you have to come to grips with uncomfortable truths, which is why a lot of people, I think, avoid it. You have to come to grips with, like, actually, I was abused by my parents. Like, I shouldn't have been hit by my parents. I should not have been. So you have to accept that bad things happen to you. You have to accept that your parents did some terrible stuff.
And that
People,
more likely than not, they didn't do it on purpose. They didn't do it to hurt you. It's just their parents were even worse in some other way. You know, like every generation, I feel like keeps getting better. Like when you talk to young kids now and you tell them things like, I don't know, how intrusive the government was way back, you know, when we were growing up or whatever. It's like, really? You have to do that? Like every generation seems to kind of get more freedom oriented a little bit. So, you know, you just have to understand that your parents probably didn't do it on purpose. Your mom probably didn't go, you know what? Yeah, mutilate my kid. Like it's just what she knew. Or maybe it was your dad that decided and it's just what he knew because it had happened to him. So, like, coming to this truth doesn't mean you have to be angry at your parents. And it doesn't mean you have to, you know, go yell at them or whatever. You can just accept that bad things happen and your parents did as best they could, but you vow to do better in the future. And I think, you know, that's kind of important too, because we seem to be really angry these days. And I don't think it's getting us anywhere, you know?
yeah, yeah, completely. And don't misunderstand me. I don't mean that acknowledging what happened to you means you have to hate your parents, be angry at your parents, whatever. The acceptance is important because if you don't accept it, you're more likely to repeat into the
Mhm.
future, right? This is acknowledgement. I like to call it the parent in your own head. I understand when I talk to people, I can see it happen. I talk to people about either topic. Usually it's a spanking, right? And you bring it up, and what I hear coming through them is not them, not their authentic voice. It's their parents speaking through them. Oh, I was a bad. I deserved it. I really got it. What if I run in trap? Like there's all of these excuses that come pouring out, and you can tell that they're actually feeling bad about it, but they're covering for their parents, and
Right,
it's. I don't think it's intentional. It's not something that people cognitively are aware of,
right.
but understanding that something bad happened, and maybe learning about the damaging impacts of circumcising boys and the massive cortisol hit and trauma that's inflicted and things, same with spanking. You look at the ACEs study that Dr. Vincent Felitti did with Kaiser Permanente. Like this is bad stuff, and it's associated with really, really bad health outcomes, mental
Like
health and
leaving your
physical
kid to
health.
cry it out. Cry it out was like the big thing back when I had my first child. It's like, let them cry it out. Why would I let my child cry it out when I'm right there to help them? Yeah, they're needy. They're babies. That's what they do. You know, like I think we just learn as we go along. And, you know, I think every parent messes up somehow, especially on your first. I mean, anybody that's like, no, I had my first and I was a perfect parent. Liar, liar. Like nobody knows what they're doing. There's no manual that comes with the kid. So yeah, you mess up. It's okay to mess up, accept that and forgive yourself, but do better. You know, do better because yeah, our kids are counting on us, you know, being less insane. The world is insane, so they're going to need, you know, a kind of quiet time at home to be able to deal with, you know, it's just in I think there's a lot of anger out in the world, and it's, you know, it's pretty scary to be raising kids in a world that people are really angry, which is all the more reason why we need to like come together as a community and build alternatives to the big cities that we're all seeing, alternatives to, you know, just regular American society.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this is key, honestly, to building a more peaceful society, a more libertarian society. Because if you are raised in an environment which is, might equals right, and I can initiate violence against you, that you just sort of tacitly accept it going forward. Like this is just the water that we all swim in. This is acceptable. This is fine. It's very difficult to, be raised in that environment and then think differently. Like it's almost like the kid at 5 years old going to school and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance every day. This just gets down deep and it indoctrinates you in a certain way and it really impacts your worldview.
Which is why I love parents who homeschool because they're not
Mm.
indoctrinating their kids. You know, and I sent my kids to school. I sent them to private schools, but I still sent them to the indoctrination camps, you know, like it's Pork Fest is coming up, and I started going. Have you ever been to Pork Fest?
I haven't. I had Eric Brakey on the show, and he
Oh
invited
gosh.
me, and I told him I would think about it this year. So I'm going to think doubly
All
about
right,
it
you
because I
need to think
really.
about Pork Fest, and let me just like kind of give you the lay of it. But the first time I went to Pork Fest, I went to Pork Fest Berlin, and it was like, well, you're going, and she was going to stay on a friend of ours' couch, and I was like, I can't let you stay on a couch. I'm going to just go and I'll get us an Airbnb. So I was really going for Lynn. And the reason I say that is because I went that first time. And then last year I was like, no, I am going. And this year Lynn's like, I don't know if I'm going. I'm like, I'm still going because by golly, you can't go to Pork Fest and not fall in love because it's one whole week where you get to spend the time with your people that think the way we do, that act the way we do, that transact the way we do. You can buy pretty much anything at PorkFest and pay for it however you like, whether that's with crypto or with gold backs or with plain old cash. I mean, talk
Trip
about
out to the alley.
yeah. Like it's so awesome. Um, yeah, it's like such a great community. And then you have parents, like kids are just roaming, and they're, hanging out with other kids and doing like zombie wars and being kids. I don't know. I think it's such a great place to go and camp and do stuff. So like come to one of these and see what it's like to hang out with your people. We're sitting out here preaching it. It's
I always sort of picture though. It's so funny. I always picture Pork Fest as like literally like a WWE like brawl, like everybody fighting just because of the way
oh
people
my
are online.
God, you
I
have
know it's not that.
no
I know it's not
idea.
that way.
So there's people that sell food vendors, and they sell their libertarian ideas, or they have booths, and you can buy handmade stuff, or you can, it's everything you want in a libertarian society for 1 week. It's so great.
When
And
is it anyway? I'm not even sure when it is. Is it in the summertime or?
yeah, it's in the summertime in New Hampshire. So I'd have to check my calendar. I think it's in July, June or July. I think they changed around the dates this year. But yeah, definitely check it out. It's porkfest, I think .com or something. Whatever. People Google Porkfest, PORCFEST, and come to it. It's so cool. Oh, we have this soapbox night where people get on the soapbox, like the actual soapbox, and get to rant for like a few minutes, and then we vote on the best rant. And this does not get filmed, so it's only for people who are there. And it is great. Oh my God, it's so much fun. We always do a bonfire every night. Yeah, it's a cool place. Like I can't stress it enough. And I'm not paid by PorkFest. I get nothing.
Oh, you're getting those
for any
pork
of this.
bucks on those kickbacks.
Yeah. I mean, they pay for my entrance because I'm a speaker. I was a speaker last year, and I'm a speaker this year. I'm actually going to talk about Lynn's journey and the power of one. Basically, the rant that I just did here about Lynn. Because I think it's so important. I think that she lit a fire under my ass. Meeting her changed my life because I was like, oh, we should run for office, and like, how else can we? And then it was like, no, this is the way to do this. This is the way we really affect liberty. And if a woman, started this in her 60s and didn't stop, what's my excuse? She didn't know how to send out emails to people, well, she knew how to send out emails, but like mass email campaigns, start not a GoFundMe. What is this? The change.org petition. Get all the way to the president of the United States. Like, if she could do all of that, what's our excuse? Like, how can we not do these things? So she really did. And that's what I'm going to go talk about at PorkFest. If you're interested, you should definitely reach out.
100% am. I've been simmering on it ever since Eric brought it up, and I'm like, I should really probably go
You
this
really
year.
should. You really should. It's so much better to have these conversations around the bonfire.
100%. Probably the nice segue to the next topic that you're passionate about, which is cannabis.
And you know what? We'll probably be smoking around that
Mm-hmm. I know how y'all libertarians are.
Yeah, that's something that libertarians, we do love our substances, especially the ones that come naturally from the earth. And not just cannabis, I've been very public about my recent dabbles into other natural remedies, medicines.
Put a pin in that. I had that as a note as well. I definitely want to finish with that. So let's take it one
Yeah.
at a time.
So cannabis, it's a plant that grows naturally and it helps people. And if it's not for you, don't smoke it. I don't get the problem. I would very much like to grow my own so that I don't put pesticides into it and I know what goes into it and I can choose its soil and I can baby my own plant. But I really don't want to lose my freedom in a cage for doing that. So instead, I don't, and I just buy it. But um, yeah, it's crazy to me that in 2025, something that started in the early 1900s, something that was based on racism and all wrong information, is still the law of the land, which, to the credit of anarchists, that is kind of a good reason not to participate and just grow it anyways, right? The problem is the reality of the feds knocking on your door and taking you off to a real life cage. It's hard to go either which way. I'm also very passionate about libertarians from all around the world. I think that that's something that is so cool, that people from all over the globe, we have these similar ideas. And so I've connected with the Libertarian Party of pretty much every country in Latin America, including Brazil, even though they speak Portuguese and not Spanish, which is my language. A lot through Central America, and then some in Asia or in Europe. And the Georgian Party, like the country of Georgia, their libertarians are really cool. They're called the Gitchi Party, and they got cannabis legal by all showing up at their office. So the entire country is 3 million people. So it's a little
Mhm.
easier than 330 million plus in the US.
I
But
do
they,
business with the country of Georgia. We have
yeah,
sites in Tbilisi.
yeah. Oh, Tbilisi is like gorgeous. Having a little bit of political turmoil at the moment.
A little bit.
Little bit, a little bit, a little interference there from Russia, a little bit, just issues. But before all of this happened, they made cannabis legal by all of the libertarians from their party going to their office, calling all of the media, and taking little cups of soil and putting seeds into it. And three of the guys got arrested. They were able to take it up to the Supreme Court, and they got cannabis decriminalized, because it's, how could it be possible that putting a seed into soil, the most natural thing on earth, how is that thing illegal? So, I mean, you can learn so much from what people in other countries do. I guess if you're not interested in what other countries do, that's cool too. But if you are, check out what other libertarians are doing. Bring those ideas here. I think we can learn so much from each other and from things that have worked elsewhere. As Americans, we think that we're the center of the universe. We're not. We're pretty cool people, but there's really cool people all around the world too. And I think, yeah, I really enjoy engaging with people from everywhere. I wish I spoke more languages.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For my day job, I travel, some years like 30, 35% of the time, and it's all international. And so I totally vibe with that feeling, but also get overwhelmed because when I first started the gig like 10 years ago, I was like, I'm going to learn all these languages. Like, no, you're not. Like, there's
No,
too many languages. I was just happy to learn the different cultures.
right.
And
Try and go
they're,
for like the more popular languages. You can speak with more people around the world. I'm blessed to have learned English because I live in America, and Spanish through my parents. So, try and learn one other language and try and pick something that's pretty popular. I don't recommend Georgian. Only those 3 million people speak it. That's it. Nobody else.
man, weren't you doing something with India as well?
Yeah, they invited me to their conference that they were having just this past week.
I
Um,
thought I saw that. Where
yeah.
was that located?
Oh, well, so I zoomed in, which was great. Yeah, exactly. Like I didn't get so much the opportunity to ask them questions. It was more me presenting, which is not my favorite. I rather learn from other people and go and experience their culture. But they're getting started. They're a new chapter, and I'm excited for what they're gonna do. And I'm like, yay, I'll keep coming back. But when you guys get big enough to invite me to India to come, like actually immerse myself, like that's what I want. You know, I want to be able to, yeah, connect with these people. What a fantastic place to like get started with freedom, like little seeds of freedom that we're planting all around the world. It's beautiful.
That's really cool. And the reason I brought it up is because India is like one of the most anti-libertarian places that I've visited. Like dealing with their regulatory bodies or government is awful. It's very, very painful doing anything in that country. So seeing you engage and try to move the needle, I was like, hell yeah, Martha, go.
Let's go. I mean, imagine if those kids run and do something, each one of them moving the needle forward. Like, that's my point. you just got to keep going because we might not see a change in our lifetime. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with still pushing the needle forward no matter what. Whatever little bit I can, whatever encouragement I can give to somebody else, like, hey, you started a chapter? Awesome. Hey, you started a podcast to talk about this? Awesome. Like as much as I can, as much as my time that I can give to these causes, I do because yeah, I mean, what else is there to do with your time, right? I mean, yes, I could work and spend it with my friends and family and, garden more, but I definitely think that this is so important. I think that we need to do more of these things, just move freedom forward.
We definitely do, and I love your perspective, and thank you for talking to me because like I was frankly, feeling a little cynical about stuff, and man, your enthusiasm is infectious. I mean, maybe I'm just too old, maybe I've seen too much, but yeah, and I'm not saying I'm not doing anything. Obviously, I've got the podcast, and I've got a bajillion libertarians been on already. I'm trying to move these ideas forward, but you do get a little discouraged at times. It does feel like man, you are just trying to climb uphill in a 6 feet of snow or something. It's very painful sometimes. So
When it's
for
raining, right?
yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah, yeah.
extra
It's
slippery. That's the thing that I just want to say, not to try and sell on anyone on ayahuasca, and definitely don't do it without like a ceremony with people that you believe in what they believe in. But I think that's the difference in me. And I did it about a month ago, and it's completely changed my perspective on so much. And I had hit that proverbial wall. I had hit that weird, like, because yes, I mean, yes, I am so proud of having elected Donald Trump to get Ross Ulbricht out of jail, but I'm not proud of having elected Donald Trump to get Ross out of jail. Like it's that dichotomy in me because it's like I don't want the authoritarianism, but I did want to move the needle forward. So okay, we're here. Now what? Do I become a Republican and become, try and get within the high ranks of the Republican Party and do something? Or do I and I think, going and taking that time for myself, being off grid completely. I slept in a hammock for 2 nights. I was the happiest, in my little hammock, and participated in these ceremonies. And it really has changed how I view things. I no longer think that I need to be antagonistic towards politicians. Surely they sometimes deserve that. But if I can work with my local politician and help him move something forward. Just this past week, one of my local politicians had put in to eliminate fluoride out of the drinking water of over 3 million Miamians. And normally he and I don't get along. And when I went to the commission meeting, I ran into him and I said, thank you for putting this through. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for, your efforts. And I'm here to support you. And then we got it passed. And now, unless the mayor decides to veto it, which I hope will be able to get the other commissioners to join in to give her to be able to undo her veto, we've saved people from being forced this toxic chemical in their water, and I think that that's such an amazing thing. And I realize that I don't have to necessarily be the loudest voice saying, hey, don't, screw you for doing this, blah, 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 blah. Like we can work with them on the things that matter to us to have a little bit more freedom, a little more control in our lives. And so I have to thank the ayahuasca for that, for like shifting my perspective completely and teaching me that there are other ways and that sometimes you can change the world with sugar, not with, like not with vinegar. You want to attract people with sugar. And I was just poisoning people with the vinegar, and yeah, it was fun, taught me a whole lot, but it's just not getting me anywhere. And I need to start being a lot more effective. If, time is running out, getting older every year. And, I can imagine how Ron Paul feels, right? Because when you're young and you're teaching these ideas, you're like, oh, I've got all this time. But as time goes on, it's like, well, how long am I going to do this? And how long am I going to be here? And how long will I be able to? And time is of the essence. We got to get way more effective. We can't keep, enjoying losing.
Yeah, you said a lot there. And what I want to touch on, which is really important to me, is the ayahuasca piece, right? So I have had some profound transformational experiences with psychedelics. It's mostly been psilocybin mushrooms. I've had extremely high dose experiences. Had a little bit of experimentation with DMT, and that scared me sufficiently to where I haven't tried it again. Like I didn't even break through or anything, but I was like, it freaked me out enough where I've still been. God, last time was like 4 years ago, and I'm still terrified to try it again. Want to do ayahuasca. So tell me about what the ayahuasca experience was like. I've heard
Right.
several people that I know personally that have done it, but I'm fascinated with, the variance in experiences. It seems like there's just a wide range of experience. So I want to get your particular experience. Like, what was it like? Talk to me about. And by the way,
Yeah,
anyone who hasn't done psychedelics, you can't explain it with words.
you
Like,
can't.
it's going to fail. But as best you can,
Right.
tell me about it.
So I want to preface with, again, it's like anything else, set and setting, right? So like if you smoke cannabis and you're in a high stress situation, you might get paranoid, right? If you're chilling with your friends and you're, just joking around, you'll probably laugh a lot. So just like that, when you do psilocybin mushrooms or when you do anything, it's a set and it's a setting. So I'm just going to kind of briefly describe my set and setting, which was a church that is here in my area. And they are registered as a church because this is a religious thing, I guess. And
Is
it's
this the
not.
UDV? Is that
No,
what that is?
no, it's a very small church. I'm not going to give information on them to protect them. Anybody that is interested in doing it, I'm happy to connect you personally. Reach out to me directly. But there's this church organization, and they offer this type of retreat, and you go for the weekend. And so it's a non-denominational style church. They believe in Mother Earth, right? They believe in good. They believe in this medicine that they bring from Peru, from the jungles of Peru and from Ecuador. And they've learned and trained with the taitas from those places, so the shaman. And they bring their healing here. And I do believe it is healing. And I one of my many messages from ayahuasca was to start a healing process amongst us, amongst our groups. First, it has to start with my own family, and then branch out to other people and bring people to this healing so that the next generations really are better than the previous ones, so that we do reach a higher level of enlightenment. And so, yeah, my experience was you go there, they clean your aura with tobacco and they pray a little bit, and all lovely and wonderful, I promise. Sure, it's a little culty, but it's a good cult. So just, and then they call you up each one by one to the altar and you drink your first cup of ayahuasca. Some people feel sick. That's normal. Some people don't. And then you go about your journey. And for me, it was 2 nights of just lessons that I needed, looking at myself without an ego present, looking at myself realistically, being able to accept that all my time doing this work as an advocate, maybe I wasn't doing it in the right way. Maybe antagonizing people was not the right way. Maybe doing these things was not the right way. And there's a better way. Lead by example. I was shown the amount of love that I have in my life, which I understand is not necessarily everybody's, you know,
Experience?
experience, right? I have it, I wouldn't say an inordinate amount, but I am very blessed with a lot of friends and family that I am very close and very attached to. People that I met along the way, people along this journey. Lynn, Ross's mom, has become one of my dearest, closest friends. With a lot more. I mentioned her because she's the one that most people would know and recognize, but so many. And, to reflect that back into the world. So just so many wonderful experiences. The only way I can say ayahuasca is like 20 years of therapy in like a session. So like if you have things that you need to like get rid of, yeah, try ayahuasca if that's like, your healing path. And it's not for everyone. And if, you have a lot to face in your life, it might be a challenging go. I mean, it'll make you a better person if you allow it to, but I do see how some people are scared of it. And I was definitely scared of it. Not scared of it anymore. Going to keep going. I think there's so much more for me to learn. And I look forward to it. It was an amazing experience at least in my part. Maybe other people have different, experiences. And I know that a lot of people have different experiences, but for me, awesome.
Yeah, you basically just encapsulated how I would describe mushrooms, which is it's a, very challenging experience at high doses. I think you get confronted with a lot of your demons, and you get shown all of the ways that you're insufficient and flawed, and ways to fix
Oh, that
yourself. And
sounds horrible.
you get these, yeah, I mean, you get
A
these.
very different experience than you on high doses of mushroom, I have to say.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
they're always different, but I think every time I've had a mushroom experience, and by the way, typically I will not do the Terrence McKenna put on eye shades and none of that stuff like silent darkness. I don't do that. Most of the time, I will go out into nature, take a walk when I'm peaking, but I always get something really important out of it, like
Absolutely.
these insights that just come out seemingly nowhere, and it might be something you've been struggling with your entire life. I'm almost 50, and it'd just be like, oh shit, that's why I'm doing that. Oh, and you connect the
Mhm.
dots, and you get, and sometimes you feel like a piece of shit for a while. But
Absolutely.
but mushrooms will always set you down kind of gently, kind of like, all right, I've shown you why you're being an asshole, go try to be better. And it's kind of like an encouraging vibe, right? And they
And if
typically
you don't
have.
do it, you'll probably get that experience again worse later because you have to actually do the work. That's the thing
Yeah.
about these things. Everybody's like, I did it and I didn't come out any different. Did you do the work? Oh, you didn't do the work? Well, no wonder. You actually have to take what they tell you and then work on that. I mean, we're all a work in progress. And the person you were 2 days ago is not the person you are today. And it's not the person you'll be 2 days from now. So, you got to do the work.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And there's always that integration phase, which I think takes the longest period of time. Like I will go months and months and months, maybe a year between high dose experience. That, I mean, number one, it's so overwhelming that like the people that are like, "Oh, you get addicted to mushrooms," like, no, you're
You
fucking
can't.
not. No, you're not. No, you're not. There's nobody that does 10 grams and the next day is like, you know what? Let's do it again today. That doesn't happen. Stop being silly.
10 grams, that's a lot. I don't think I've done that. That's probably a bit much for me. But speaking of that, I'm going to do that coming up here soon. I'm going to do another ceremony with mushrooms. Same, different group of people, but we overlap with that church.
Hmm.
It is amazing. With the whole experience with the chanting and the songs and the Mother Nature and the very different experience, I have to say, than doing it on our own. I mean, on our own is also great, but it's just, I don't know. For me, ever since I've tried these like ceremonial style, it kind of lacks doing it on my own.
Yeah, and that's what I hear from all the psychedelic advocates and scientists that you kind of need a container for. And that's what these traditions and these ceremonies and these shaman, they sort of do. They provide a container, like a unified experience for everybody to sort of manage the experience through. And I think that that's
And share their
probably,
energy.
yeah, all of that too. I don't know how I would feel about it because when I am on high doses of mushrooms, people terrify me. Like even my own family. Like I don't want to be around anybody. I want to be completely out in nature by myself. I don't want to. If I see another human being coming, I feel like it's a panic
But see, that's
situation.
that's that's because you're thinking of people who are not on the same experience as you are. So you have to think about it in a very different context. Let's say you're with 5 people and you're all on the same dose of mushrooms, and you all started off sharing your intentions, and you all started off, with cleansing breath exercise work, and you kind of release the tension together, and then there's the right music, you have somebody controlling the environment, you're safe, and you don't talk or touch each other while you're under the experience, but you're all there kind of holding that sacred space. It's a very different experience. It's kind of like, I used to be like, oh no, all of that is like whatever, kooky, or oh, those crunchy people over there, how hippie of them. But it's, yeah, I'm turning into one of them. It's like, wow, those are my people. And yeah, there is a difference. We don't talk about it often, but um, sometimes you just feel terrible and somebody gives you a hug and you feel better, right? Like we humans, we need human interaction and touch. And there's something special about a group of people all coming together with the same intention. And it's almost like a little bubble of space that you guys are in, and you're together, and you're sharing energy or ideas or downloading all together, however you want to look at it. And don't knock it till you tried it is all I'm saying. Like it's been transformational. I've been blessed to take a dear friend of mine who has a health condition to a mushroom ceremony. She went to the first one without me. I wasn't able to attend. And then the second one that I went to, um, it wouldn't, the second one with her, I wasn't feeling anything. I wasn't connecting to the medicine. And I'm like, what is going on here? And I kept hearing in my head, you're here in service to others. Like, get with the program, you're here. And I look out of the corner of my eye, my friend, and I was like, I guess I should go help her. I watched her kind of exorcise a demon, which was a disease that she had. And she is doing fantastic since then. And I mean, if I wouldn't have watched it, I would have been like, those people are crazy. Of course, that doesn't happen like that. 10 years of doctors telling her, take this, not being able to find a doctor to really help her. And then all of a sudden, she does this mushroom thing and she realizes that it's a lot of her own doing. She's like, I don't want to be sick anymore. This is who I am, but I don't want to be this person anymore. Again, not all diseases are the same. She has an autoimmune disease. She still has it, but her symptoms have subsided. I can't say that she's in remission. We haven't had her doctor check her or anything, so I don't know but she's definitely a lot better. And maybe it's a placebo effect. Maybe it actually works. Whatever that thing is, I saw it happen, and she's in so much a better place today than she was when she did it. I mean, it's just crazy to think that we humans are so much more than we've been told that what we are. We are incredible beings, and we probably can do more than what we think we can. And how incredible to explore that, and be able to like grow. And I think these substances are there for us to experience that and grow, and change our mindset and understand that maybe sometimes we're wrong. And it's okay to be wrong. I'd rather be wrong and right that wrong than continue on that path till forever, because somehow that makes me better because I was right all along. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Let me ask you an ontological question. What do you think is going on with these things? Because I was a person who was raised very religious, very Catholic, became atheist. That has all fucking bullshit. Went through a Reddit atheist phase. Had the mushroom experience, and then I'm like, what the fuck is that? There's something going on. I don't understand what it is. Want to get your take, man. Do you have any ideas what the hell is actually going on with these things?
Same. I was raised super Catholic, became an atheist because I was like, those people don't represent me. I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to go to some dude every week to tell me how I'm supposed to think so that God will love me. Like, that's not what this is about, right? I don't know that I was actually atheist. I was questioning. And then I discovered like all of this, right? Like, there's so much more, and it's probably inside of each and every one of us. And to be fair, a lot of us are so comfortable saying that's evil. That person is evil. They're doing evil things. We're cool with evil, but just like there's a day and a night, if there's an evil, there has to be a good. If there's, it's the yin to the yang, there is an opposite to everything. Up is down, left is right. Like, there's an opposite to everything. So if that's the case and there is evil, you're willing to accept that there is evil, then why isn't there a divine or a positive or a God or a force? And so, and the more that I've gone down this path, the more that just things start happening very serendipitously. We weren't supposed to talk till now. If I would have talked to you a month ago, this conversation would have been very different. And so I think that, when things don't work out, sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, I really wish this thing would have worked out. You know what? It wasn't for me. The universe knows what I need, whatever that universe is, whatever you believe. But yeah, I think that what is that thing? I don't know, but that thing gave us tools to work with, tools to heal. And I've seen it so clearly I'm just obsessed with babies. I can't help it. I am the mother of 4 and all my children are now grown, and my kids haven't started giving me grandchildren. So I am like that, like the dirty old man that walks down the street and sees like young women is like, oh my gosh. And they're obsessed. I'm obsessed, but with babies, it's a thing. And so
You,
all of
you,
my
you
friends
you
come.
have what's called grandbaby rabies.
Yes. I have never heard that before, but yes, guilty as charged. And so like all my friends that are having babies, I'm like, please come over and let me sniff your baby, please. Like, I sound like a weirdo, but please let me enjoy your child for a little bit. Take them off your hands. I'm here to help. And so as my friends come over and we spend time together, and I'm looking at their children and I'm like, we were all born so perfect, such innocent little creatures. And then little by little, we've received nicks. And it's like growing a plant, right? And you nick your tree and it might grow back. But if you give it enough nicks, it'll wilt and it'll die and you can't recover it. And that's us humans. Every time your parent shows some type of something that just hurt you, that's a little nick. And so these tools really help repair those nicks, because you start seeing that wasn't actually a nick. You know what? My dad or my mom did what they could, the best they could with what they had. And you're able to repair yourself and you're able to see things in another light. Um, again, as a parent, it's hard to be like, I messed up. But it feels so good to go to your kid and be like, that time that I told you this, or I did this thing, or I hurt you in this way, I want you to know that I didn't mean it. That I was acting out or whatever, but I'd never meant it. I think you're awesome. And you can start repairing. Yeah, we all can. And, that's never too late as long as you're alive to repair things. And we have these amazing tools. So what are they? I think that they're gifts from God. I can't see them in any other way. It's changed my life. I think that it's making me a much kinder person. I think it's making me, I think I was already empathetic, but it is making me more empathetic. I think it is showing me a better path. I think it's showing me that, most of us want the same thing. We just don't know how to go about it. So, gosh, I think I went like far out in that, But
No, it's fine. The question I was really wanting to ask, so thank you for that answer, by the way, is an amazing answer. But I'm asking, like, what do you think this is, right? Like, what are you connecting with? Because when I am on
the
high doses of
universe,
yeah, that's the thing. It sounds all woo woo, and because
it does sound woo woo.
I'm
That's
such
the
a
problem.
scientifically minded, epistemic, rational thinker, but I want to have these experiences. It's like you are like in a head on, like a head on collision with whatever this transcendent cosmic force is. Call it God, call it the universe. I'm still trying to find
Do you
words.
think of everything, or do you believe that you download ideas? I mean, do you sometimes you're sitting around, no thought in your head, and all of a sudden, oh gosh, I should totally do XYZ, and it's this brilliant idea. Do you did we come up with that, or did it download into our brain?
I don't know. And this is one of the things that I've been struggling with. I mean, consciousness itself is a really hard problem. And I had Sterling Cooley on the show, and he works with Hameroff, who was a contemporary of Sir Roger Penrose, and worked together on microtubules and the origin of consciousness and anesthesia and all this stuff, and the quantum nature of consciousness, right? Like, and I'm trying to understand it mechanistically and scientifically, and sort of overlay that with my personal experiences on psychedelics. And I got to say, I don't know, Martha. Like, I'm trying to figure it out. So I'm asking anyone who's had one of these really powerful experiences, I'd like to ask them, like, what's up with that? What do you think this is? And I particularly want to ask about ayahuasca, because my understanding, whether it's NN-DMT, if it's vaporized, or you're taking, orally active DMT via ayahuasca, like, you encounter entities, and particularly the most common one is the mother with ayahuasca, right? So I wanted to ask you, number one, did you encounter entities, or the mother, or both, or
I
what
don't.
was?
Yeah, I can't say that I encountered an entity. Like, I didn't see somebody, but I definitely met the mother. And with that, I mean, I started getting all sorts of images of how we, including myself, damaged the mother. And that was, polluted rivers and lakes and hurt children and just all sorts of images. And it was like flashing before my eyes, kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. You don't see it, but you see it. It's like dreaming, right? You kind of see it, but you're not seeing it with your eyes. And so I saw all of these images of things that we were doing to the mother. And it, yeah, like there's many ways to meet her. And I think that it is, when you think about it, everything we have and everything we are comes from the mother. So from every atom in our body, you know yes, we were birthed by our mothers, but everything came from a star somewhere. Like, we borrow from the mother to create. Every piece of clothing you're wearing, even if it's a synthetic fiber, came from the mother. Every piece of food you've ever consumed came from the mother. The oxygen you breathe came from the mother. It's like, everything we have is because of this planet that we live on. And so what is this thing? For me, I don't have the answer to that. All I know is that I don't know anything, but I certainly do think that we are, like I keep saying, we are more than what we've been led to believe. We are more than just this meat suit. We are more than just, some slightly more evolved apes. We are more than that. And we are not meant to live in this type of society at each other's throats. We are not meant to live constantly anxious and at war with one another and angry at each other and, with this misery and this ugh on top of us. And, I think that if there's good, there's evil. And evil wants to win and wants to control people and wants little tax cattle on their, government farm. And they want to tell us how to live our lives and how to do these things. So I think you have to rise above all of that and find your people and create a community that you do want to live in, and live as freely as you can, at least in your own mind. And all of these tools, they help you free your mind. They help you be more than just this meat suit. And I think, like, I am so grateful to have found them, to have been brave enough to have tried it, because for the first 30 plus years of my life, probably 40 years of my life, I refused to try them. I was so scared. Oh my God, those things are, it's a drug and I'm going to be a bad person for trying it. I'm the mother of all these kids. How could I possibly? Oh, I can't do that thing. Oh, who do you think I am? And then one day I tried it and I was like, wow, I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, and it's sad that that narrative exists because it was that way for me as well. I sort of prided myself as being the not drug guy. I didn't. I don't think I ever smoked cannabis until I was like in my mid 30s, like in
Same.
my suburban home, and I felt like it was an ABC after school special. I'm like buying a bong, and what do I do with this? It was such a odd
Listen, I started
experience.
hanging out with libertarians and they're like, what, you don't smoke? And I'm like, I guess I'll join you, blame the, what can I say? Bad influences or good influences, because honestly, I'm much happier now.
Yeah, yeah, no shade on anyone's choices. I don't do cannabis anymore. It wasn't for me long term. It wasn't something that I was happy with. Some of the side effects, cognitive side effects. I got an engineer. I work in a big tech company, and having a sharp mind was really important. I found myself, oh, I'm just gonna take this like 98% THC pen and take a few before I go to sleep, and it did help with my sleep, and that was an excuse I used. But ultimately, it was fogging my brain, and I wasn't feeling great, and so I abandoned it. But it helps people. There's a million people, and they all have different pros and cons associated with it. I won't try to police anyone's usage of anything, but with the psychedelics, like that's where I felt like, ooh, this is really a drug. Like this is some shady shit. But actually going through the process, that was the most transformative of my life. The first time I did it, number one, I grew up myself because I don't trust anybody. I'm like, the feds aren't going to get me. I'm not going to buy it online. I'm going to, so I grew all my own stuff and did 3.5 grams to start, and absolutely changed my life that night. That was one of the things that was just like, well, you
I'm
can
so
never look
not paranoid. People give me things and I'm like, oh, I barely know you, but thanks.
at not me, Martha. They're not going to give me.
Oh man, yeah. I think most people are pretty good people, especially in our community. I think most people that are part of our community are good people. And when, I meet them and they're like, "Hey, I want to offer this thing that I have." It's like, "Thank you. I appreciate it with everything." So, I get where you're coming from, but I haven't yet started to grow mushrooms, and every time that I've tried, I've really failed hard at it. So I
It's
don't know
hard.
that it's
It is a difficult thing, and it is very easy to mess up. And if you do mess it up, it's typically on the actual fruiting portion, or if you have like a monotub that you're growing, so you've gone through the inoculation of the
oh, thank
grain and
God.
everything,
Oh, that
and
sounds
then
so
you
complicated.
it's not that complicated, but if you do fuck it up, you ruin the entire batch and you've wasted like 2 months of your life, right? It's very annoying. But well, I will say this, Martha, to sort of sway you the other way, the fresh ones are way better. Like the experience is monumentally different than the dried because you're actually taking pure psilocin as opposed to psilocybin that has to get broken down by your enzymes. And it's a much cleaner experience and a much different and better experience, I think. So if you ever get a chance to get some fresh ones, I would highly recommend it. But the point
I
out,
will work on getting fresh ones. I will work on my skills. See, all of this is coming back around. I'm trying to grow more things and learn how to do more things. So yeah, definitely on my.
hit me up. I can help you out.
Okay, oh, I'm definitely gonna have to take you up on that because even those grow kits, I butcher it. I murder them. It's terrible.
No, I got you. I got you. But I don't not. This is for legal purposes. It was a joke.
This is not, yes,
Feds, leave me
joking.
alone. Oh
I don't
man,
do any of these things. I'm lying.
definitely not. But anyway, like the point I was getting at is the narrative that it's a terrible thing. I think that stops a lot of people from making that leap, and it's a sad thing to see. But I will say the world seems to be changing. I've had a lot of Christians on my show because I'm like God curious, I guess, right now through all this experience. And most of the people, I had Tyler Toad on, who has like a huge following, and I was expecting to hear, no, that's drugs, I would never. And he's like, no, that's awesome. I have buddies that do ayahuasca all the time. I take cannabis myself. I'm like, the Jesus movement's changed. Something's different from when I was coming up.
Was it Jesus that said that we shouldn't touch these things, or was it government? I get confused on that one. The last
Good
time I
point.
checked, Jesus was like, "Oh shoot, we ran out of wine at this party. Oh no, wait, let me fix this for y'all." I may be paraphrasing, but
Jesus liked
pretty
the
sure,
party.
Jesus put things, Jesus, God, the universe, whatever you want to call that entity, put things on this planet for our betterment, our enjoyment. And I mean, it wasn't just for us. We're not the only animals that like to get high or experience things. One of my favorite discoveries was learning that dolphins will pass around a puffer fish because it
Mm-hmm.
releases a toxin and they get high off of it. I was like, wait a minute. Dolphins also have sex for fun. Like, clearly there are certain things that are fun and feel good, and is that wrong?
No, I don't think so. And also, the more we learn about the science of early Christianity in particular, and I believe this is ubiquitous across all religions. But you see Brian Muraresku on Joe Rogan?
No, I
He
have.
wrote a book called The Immortality Key, and he explored ancient Greece and was a place called oh, it's driving me nuts. I can't remember it. But they used to go Eleusis. That's where it was. They would go to Eleusis, and they would have these sort of
Oh
divine
yeah, yeah.
mysteries. Yeah,
Yes, yes. Okay.
and he's
Sorry.
never done any drugs, and he is a linguist, and he worked with the Vatican to sort of translate a bunch of texts, and when it ended up going to archaeological sites where the early church was, and they actually exhumed the site and found the communion, like the mixed wine they used for communion. They had it chemically analyzed, and it was full of ergotine, which is basically LSD. It's like LSD is synthesized from the ergot fungus. And so there's actual evidence that early Christians were tripping balls in the churches. So I don't think Jesus is certainly opposed to that. And one of the things I've noticed, I mentioned I travel the world all the time, whether I go to India, whether I go to a Muslim country, look at the mosque, you look at the architecture, I can instantly, now that I've had psychedelic experiences, go, you all were tripping. And these religious ideas and these traditions that sprung up, I think they've got a common ancestor. I think that is the plants and the chemical compounds in some of these mushrooms and plants.
Yeah, I mean, like the stone ape theory, like that it helped evolve. Like, yes, if you've ever done one of these substances, you know that it just, I used to say that it kind of like lifts the mental cage around your brain. And you don't realize you have it because, before that, you would have told me that. I've been like, no, I am super free thinker. Like, what do you mean? And
Maybe
then you
not.
do it. And then you do. And you're like, I'm thinking about things in ways I'd never even thought to think before. Like, this is really changing my thought processes in a good way, and I think we should challenge ourselves to do those things more often. Yeah, I don't know if Dr. Paul ever tried any of these substances, but he seems like maybe he had.
I'd like to believe he did. I sort of suspect he hadn't. He seems like a pretty straight laced Southern Baptist type of
I don't know,
old school
he's a pretty
Christian,
cool
but
guy, I have to say.
he's definitely a cool guy. Boy, I don't know. I'll just believe he did just because I
You know
want
what,
to.
I'd never thought to ask him, but if I ever see him again, I need to be like, Dr. Paul, please, I need to know.
Yeah, somebody ask him quickly. I want to know this. This is actually a burning question I need to have answered now.
He was at the Bitcoin conference.
Which one?
The last one in
In
Nashville.
Nashville? Are
Yeah.
you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I had Alex Feinberg on my show and he was at the Bitcoin conference. I didn't go to that one.
It was great.
Um,
Actually, we were, I felt very honored to have been able to give up a seat for him and Daniel McAdams, who was with him, because it was like we saw Dr. Paul standing and the place was crowded. There was nowhere to sit. And my friend went over and was like, please come join us. And, the youngins got up and stood around protecting him because everybody wanted to come talk to him. But it was actually a great honor to be able to do that for him. It was when Donald Trump was coming to the stage, and can you imagine Dr. Paul standing in a crowd of people like, "What? No, we could not have this. This man is a hero, and he needs a seat." So yeah, it was great to. I took a bunch of pictures. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm with Dr. Paul!" I had met him before and in some other event, but it's just really cool. I think he's the goat. So if I have the pleasure or the honor of being near him again, I need to ask because
100%.
it is a pressing question. We need to know.
Oh man, well, we're about at time, Martha. I had such a great time talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been awesome, and I hope to see you at Porkfest. Like, I'm legitimately like 90% convinced I'm going to go.
Well,
So
those rookie numbers, we need 100%. Let's go.
let's go.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'll be there. So definitely, if you decide to come, let me know. Yeah, let's catch up.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for stopping by. And why don't you tell everybody, if they don't know where you are online because they live under a rock or something, where they can find you?
They can find me at Bueno for Miami on X and IG, and coming up on April 15th. I have to think what month we're in. I'm so loopy these days. On April 15th, TPUSA and Lola invited me to be a speaker on stage at FIU at my alma mater. So if you're in Miami and want to check it out, it's going to be a women event with several great speakers, and I'm really like honored to go and be able to speak. I mean, this is like so cool. I get to talk about liberty and freedom stuff, and people want to hear. I mean, I'm so eternally grateful for the opportunity. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, anytime. I have to have you back sometime. Thanks for stopping by. Bye.